Hi, Rama. It's week 12, day 3 of our Bible narrative reading plan. Today we're in the book of Joshua, chapters 9 and 10. We saw yesterday the tragic sin of Achan, how that impacted the entire nation of Israel. Today we continue with Israel as they are taking the promised land, the land that God has told them would be their possession, and God is delivering this land to them. But yet we see that they continue to not act wisely. They make foolish choices. Here in chapter 9, we see that people from the land of Gibeon, they've heard what Joshua has done to Jericho and to Ai, by extension Joshua and all the people of Israel. And so chapter 9 verse 4 says, they on their part acted with cunning. And it tells you their cunning plan that they did. They appeared to be people who've come from a long way off and that their provisions are almost run out. You think they must have come from thousands of miles away. And yet they were neighbors who knew that they were about to be conquered. And notice what they say when they come to Joshua. They say, we have heard what your God did. We've heard how he's delivered you. We've heard how he brought you out of bondage in Egypt. We've heard how he's conquered these other lands for you. And we heard about it and we wanted to come be a part of you. We want to worship the Lord your God. Now notice, part of this is what was supposed to happen. Even as Moses led God's people out of Israel, God told them that other nations would hear of his great power. They would hear about how God had delivered them. And so the people of Gibeon come to them and they say these things, and yet they're acting deceptively. And Joshua and the leaders of Israel, they act impulsively. They don't take it to God in prayer. They don't ask for God's wisdom. The text is very clear about that they didn't actually talk to God about it. They just believed them. And soon, within a few days, they realized that, oh no, these people are actually our enemies. They're actually from the land around us, the land that we're supposed to be conquering. But now they've made a covenant to God that Israel would not harm these people. And so they keep their word, they keep their covenant with God, but now they're having to live with the consequences that they didn't actually go to God. They didn't actually ask for God's wisdom. Why would they do that? We see how God has delivered them, even as he brought them out of Egypt, even as he continues to work through Joshua. He's parted the Jordan River for them. He's miraculously conquered Jericho for them on their behalf. He's gone before them at the Battle of Ai. And here in chapter 10, we see even that God makes the sun stand still for a victory for Israel. And God allows them to conquer all of these different Amorite kings. They're conquering southern Canaan. They're conquering all of these things. God is clearly, miraculously working on their behalf. Yet in moments of poor decision making, Joshua, leading the people, fails to ask God for wisdom. And they have to continue with those consequences that could play out throughout the Old Testament. And so it's an important reminder to us living here in 2021 that even as God has delivered us, even as God has provided for us, we continually need God. We need God's grace. We need God's wisdom. We need to lean on God, the same God who has delivered us from our bondage to Satan and to sin. Here's a summary of today's reading. For more information, go to tunemyheart.org.